This week's Dopey, the podcast about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit, is brought to you by Aloe Recovery, located in sunny California in Malibu and Silver Lake. Aloe cares about its clients. Bob Forrest, our friend, and Evan Haynes, our new friend, got together and said, we want to create a rehab that cares about addicts. So they created a place where their motto was connection and not control. At Aloe, excellence matters. This is what Evan told me. We provide ultra high quality care, but that's not what makes us special. It's authenticity and genuineness that gives us the ability to reach the unreachable, and you cannot fake that. They guarantee their clients will have the highest quality, most unique, and powerful healing experience they could find anywhere. Now, what really appealed to me about it was when Bob and Evan both told me how respecting addicts is what they care about. And I've been to a million programs where I was never respected and I was treated like a number or just a bother. And if I ever fuck up, which God willing I won't, I'll be on the phone to Bob and Evan to go to Aloe. But their doctors are board-certified addictionologists. Their clinical director, Dr. Dina Mannion, has 3 decades of experience treating addiction and mental health disorders. Their staff has a combined 675 years of experience treating addiction and mental health problems. I would just go for the amenities, though. Surfing, horseback riding, sweat lodges, and sound bath meditations. So if you guys are fucked and you need some help, you should totally go to Aloe. Thanks, Aloe, and here is the show. Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. I am Dave, and I have a very special guest on the phone. His name is Darren Prince. He wrote this amazing book called Aiming High, How a Prominent Sports and Celebrity Agent Hit Bottom at the Top. How are you, Darren?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
Are you kidding me? This Darren Prince, did you call yourself a super agent, or is there a realm of agents that are better than normal agents, and you're one of them?
No, I hate using that word. It's funny. Years ago when I was using an active and I had an ego, I loved it. But, now in sobriety and recovery, I learned to check my ego at the door and keep my ego crushed. But the word prominent on the cover was funny because the publisher wanted to use the word super agent, and I go, that's just not my life anymore. How a super agent hit bottom at the top? I was like, there's just no way, because I'm nobody's super. It's the talent and the icons I represent that are the super ones.
Well, they are super, but what about supermodels versus super agents? Like a Cindy Crawford or a Heidi Klum. They wouldn't say a prominent model. They would say a supermodel because it is the strata of their modeling career. And wouldn't you say you're a super agent in the same way?
Oh, I think the talent is more the super one. We're the deal makers behind the scenes. So I know the term has been thrown around. Dennis Rodman always calls me that, some of my guys. But like I said, I choose to stay humble and understand that those guys are making my life a lot easier, allowing me to negotiate the deals that we do, because they're the ones that all accomplished historic situations in their profession.
Totally. And the truth is, I have to make a confession, which I feel badly about. I've been hounding your representation to send me excerpts and stuff when I didn't even consider going to the store and buying the book, because I'm an idiot. So today I went to the store and I bought the book. And now I wish I had bought it last week, because it's amazing. And, I've had my head in it all day, and I feel like I've known you a little bit. And Darren he's a very interesting guy, and he's a drug addict just like me and probably many of you. And he's an entrepreneur. And from what I could tell from reading the beginning, Darren made his entree into business was in baseball cards. And he would buy and sell baseball cards at such a rate that he wound up making a fortune of money doing it. I imagine that it got you very high just selling the cards, just the entrepreneurship. Was it a similar high to the high of opiates?
Absolutely. 100%. I started the business when I was 14 years old in 1984. I had a lot of insecurities and inadequacies. I was labeled learning disabled or ADD, whatever you would call it.
It was ADD. You got labeled attention deficit.
Yeah, I got, back then they didn't really know what ADD was. It wasn't even a label. So, here I have all these insecurities. I'm verbally teased for being an idiot. I'm in small classrooms, and this baseball cards, holding down 3 odd jobs from delivering newspapers. I was a busboy. I squeezed orange juice at a local supermarket. And when all my guy friends started dating, I was such a late bloomer. I didn't really care about that. And they needed money, and baseball cards were corny. I bought everybody's collection. And before you knew it, I had about $8,000 worth of cards. And I asked my dad one night to get me homeowners insurance for about 8 or 9. And he thought I was crazy. He goes, all right, I'll get you $1,000 worth of insurance. And I said, no. I said, Dad, 8 or 9,000. So now he really thinks I'm crazy. I sit down with him. I show him the cards. I show him the price guide, why they're worth so much. And he challenged me and said, how do you know you can sell them and who would buy them? And 2 weeks later, there was a convention in Livingston, New Jersey at the old Holiday Inn on Route 10. I spent about 2 weeks every single night preparing this 8-foot table that I was sharing with my friend Steve Simon, who ironically now runs my agency. And it was the biggest opportunity in my life. And I made over $1,000 on that Sunday afternoon, and that was it. I didn't turn back. I just felt alive. I felt like I found my purpose, my calling, the wheeling, the dealing, the action. But then when I came home on that Sunday night, Dave, the interesting thing was that emptiness came right back.
Right. After the high
I felt like that kid, that learning disabled kid, that was worth nothing to me.
I love the way you describe that. I remember, and this sounds very corny, but I remember when I would go to summer camp, right? And I never liked summer camp. I never had a lot of friends there, and I always felt pretty alone. That was like when I really would feel the most alone. And I remember on visiting day, like when your family would show up and you'd kind of get to do whatever you want, when they would leave, I would have this terrible feeling. And I would access it as I got older, that was the feeling. And it kind of reminds me of what you're talking about in terms of...
It's the weirdest thing. I had the same thing. It took me... Every time I was in summer camp, it took me a good week or two to warm up and get rid of that homesickness. And then Mom and Dad would come up. I was so excited they would leave, and I was heartbroken again. But then I would get reacclimated. But I understand the feeling. Absolutely, the emptiness, the anxiety.
Yeah.
The fears that I would bring upon myself.
And when did that first faithful trip to the dentist play in? Did you already had started the baseball card business?
It wasn't the dentist. You just started reading the book. It was in sleepaway camp at 12 years old, Camp Emerson.
I thought there was a dentistry thing before the...
That was second.
Okay. So tell this. I love the summer camp Demerol story.
The summer camp story, and I talk about this all the time, and I do my speaking engagements, that I had horrible stomach pains one night. I was 12 years old, maybe 13, and I said to the counselor, I need to go to the infirmary. He took me, and this nurse named Greta gave me this green liquid in a cough syrup cup, and it tasted absolutely horrible. And 5 minutes later, as I'm walking across the softball field, this love affair started, this feeling, this warmth, where I finally felt a part of. I finally felt equal. I felt like I belonged in the world. I felt like I arrived. I was smart. I was funny. I was charming.
It was the I have arrived alcoholic moment. Totally.
That's it, man. I was good looking. I got back to the bunk. I was the funny guy. I was the cool one. I had the courage to go to the bunk next door and flirt with all the girls. And, thinking nothing of it, I go to bed that night, wake up, do all my activities the next day. And that very next night, I'm lying in bed with no stomach pains. None. And I said to the counselor, I'm looking up at the sky thinking, man, that feeling was amazing. And I look at the counselor and I said, my stomach is killing me. We got to go back to the infirmary. And I did that for 3 straight weeks until Mom and Dad came for visitation day and found out I was taking liquid Demerol. And that was the end of that.
I mean, that's the craziest thing, that the camp is prescribing you fucking liquid Demerol. I've never heard of such a thing. That's nuts. But you did it every day over the summer. Every day in that 3-week period, you did it. You could go back and they would give you a dose, basically.
Yep.
Now, how long did it happen before you had your first sort of opiate-based habit at home?
It took a couple years. That's where we get to the dentist appointment, probably when I was 14, 15. I was actually more towards I was 15 because I actually had money in my pocket then because the baseball card business started to take off. But I went to get a couple wisdom teeth pulled, and the dentist gave my mom a prescription for Vicodins. And I remember just taking 2 pills, being in a lot of pain, going to lie down in bed, and I was freaking flying. It was that exact same feeling came back. I'm calling up my friends, loving life. I'm sneaking down to the kitchen in the middle of the night, taking another couple pills as my parents are sleeping. My mom wakes up in the morning and half the bottle's gone. by the end of the day, they're all gone. And now I know I'm in trouble because I was like, damn it, I'm actually in pain and I'm out of these pills. So the next morning I wake up and I put the crocodile tears on. Mom, my tooth is killing me. We've got to go back to the dentist. And I did the same thing to him. Manipulated, lied, did whatever I had to do, and he prescribed another bottle. And that was it. For the next 5-6 years, drugs, alcohol, whatever it was, you name it, I did it. And there was no repercussions whatsoever. I was on top of the world, making more money than you could ever imagine, more money than most of my friends' fathers. I was in my own industry, I was a superstar, just getting a lot of press coverage, and me and 3 other, very prominent baseball card dealers that were, late teens. We called ourselves legal drug dealers, and because we would make tens of thousands of dollars each on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon, buying, selling, and trading at these trade shows. But while I'm living that life, there's also the underlying root of all that shit that I never cleared out. So eventually it all caught up to me.
Well, I'm really curious because the dope. Our audience is called the Dopey Nation, and they need to understand that Darren was a teenager making $200,000 a year selling baseball cards. You were so good at it, and the entrepreneurship came incredibly natural to you, and I love that. The excitement and the talent and the hard work. I think that lots of addicts out there. They need to fill their time. They need to keep their mind active. I'm very obsessive with Dopey. I do not make $200,000 a year at it, unfortunately, but I put a lot of time into it, and I'm really careful with it, and I think about it, and I know lots of addicts who have a hobby put their time into it. You fucking went overdrive on this thing, and it really paid off, and it really showed you your talent, which is so fun to read. It's so exciting to read about it, and
my dad was my mentor. He was a brilliant businessman. He passed away a couple of years ago, but I just became a sponge, and to get his love and support and his excitement to see that, holy crap, look at my son.
My nice Jewish boy is killing it in the baseball card game.
Exactly. And next, I'm my freshman year in college. I'm on the front page of the USA Today. I'm doing talk shows. I'm in the New York Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. I didn't make it in college. I dropped out my freshman year, but now, my parents are starting to say, wow, this is something really special is happening. We think our son found his calling.
Well, you did, but you also, and you had a habit at that point.
Oh, yeah, I had a habit, and then eventually I got out of the baseball card business. I started doing private autograph signings with some of the biggest athletes and celebrities. I had a merchandise company, and I did that for about 3-4 years, and got myself in a lot of legal problems. I was arrested in my early 20s 4 times for possession.
Yeah, I was just reading about that. I was just reading about that Darren went to an Allman Brothers show, and some dude threw him a bag of Xanax and ecstasy and weed, and then he smokes a joint at the Allman Brothers. And who drove you home from the band?
Warren Haynes.
Shut the fuck up. That's insane. That's insane.
Yep.
So what other legal problems were you? I really want to know where you were getting the pills on a daily basis.
Well, it was easy, man. I had money, I had access, so it was either from doctors or I would just buy them. And eventually, when I got out of that business and I started the agency, Prince Marketing Group in 1985. And Magic Johnson was my first client. I knew that I had to get away from the illegal drugs. And I did really have sciatica. It wasn't fabricated. It wasn't made up. I would go from the stresses. I would get shooting pains in my back, my legs. So going to doctors and playing it up and getting the epidurals and everything, it was easy to get a couple $100 Vicodin oxys each month. And they saw from the outside all the success I had working with, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Pamela Anderson, Chevy Chase, Magic, obviously, all these icons. And why in the world would they think I had an issue? And for years it worked. I tell people I built up an amazing business in the industry. 6, 7, 8 years, I was kicking ass, and I just don't know when it turned. I don't know when that moment happened where all of a sudden I lost the sense of self. And got to a point where I didn't want to live anymore.
So you rode the high, because another thing about Darren, which is very, very, very different than most addicts that I've come into contact with, and you kind of describe it in the title of the book, hit bottom at the top. Like, your company was only skyrocketing, and you jumped too far ahead. I have a lot of questions about all those things you were just saying.
Sure.
But you know, I want to get to, like, when you're buying drugs illegally, you know, you're buying ecstasy and you're getting pills and you're were you on Dead Tour?
Oh my God, yeah, of course. I would take 7, 8, 9 of my friends because I was the one with the money. I'd pay for the hotels, I'd pay for the car services, rental cars, the ecstasy, the weed, the food, whatever it was. Everything was on my tab because I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars at the time, and my boys couldn't afford it.
Yeah, were you one of these guys with the nitrous tanks in the hotel room?
Yeah, we love the nitrous tanks.
You have any good crazy stories from Dead Tour that you would like to share with the Dopey Nation real quick?
There was so many amazing shows I went to up at RFK. I remember seeing a Casey Jones for the first time in decades. It was like such a rarity. We did 1 year at the Garden, I think in 91, 92, where we went every single night, 8 nights in a row, right up front. Bobby spitting during Sunshine and Daydream on us, like literally the front row. It was, Brent was out of his mind with his eyes rolling. Jerry kept missing the signals and flubbing the words.
Yeah.
He was so whacked out of his mind. And the experience when you're there and you're tripping balls yourself on ecstasy and they're freaking rolling. It's the most life-changing sensation night in and night out. And every song is just like beyond euphoric. And,
I think I was there in 91. That was the first time I dosed, was 91 at Madison Square Garden. So maybe we're there at the same time.
So I'll give you probably one of my crazy, it's not a dead story, but at the Wetlands, me and my friend Jeremy go, and I hit a gel acid for the first time, probably 1990, and the Blues Travelers were just getting somewhat popular. So we went backstage. Somehow we got backstage to party with John Popper and Chad, the guitarist that passed away, and we're partying with them, and Jeremy gives me a hit of this gel acid, and we go up to the front of the stage. We're going to take a piss, and we go, as we're walking out of the bathroom, we're going to the front of the stage, and I'm talking, and all of a sudden, we both see the hit of acid fly out of my mouth. I never took acid before. He's like, dude, did you see that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, bro, I thought I swallowed it. He's like, dude, there's no way, because it just flew out of your mouth. I'm like, how crazy is that? I was like, do you have any more? He goes, yeah, dude. He goes, don't worry about it. I got a couple more. Take another one. Bro, we didn't realize I was already tripping at that point. That's what we were seeing. We were seeing the hit of acid come out of my mouth. I was up for 3 straight days the first time I took acid, because I was actually on 2 doses now, heavy doses of gel acid. I had to go to a family wedding, and the next day it was a freaking disaster.
Were you still tripping at the wedding?
Yeah, I was tripping at the wedding. Me and one of my other buddies, we went to Sedona. We rented a Corvette convertible from Scottsdale to Sedona. Same thing, just stupid shit. Took a hit of acid, and we're out of our minds. Must have got pulled over 3 different times on the ride from different cops because the top was down on this Corvette convertible. Life couldn't be better. I'm on top of the world. We're tripping our balls up, but clean acid. So we're not out of our minds. We're really in that zone. And every time we get pulled over, we can't look at each other because we start getting into laughing rages. And we're like, they're going to arrest us.
Crazy fear and loathing.
You look at this shit. Like, I had an Acura NSX when I was 22. I had a 800 horsepower Mitsubishi 3000 GT, and we would be whacked out of our mind on weed and pills, and I'd be doing what we call these hell rides on Highway 280 in New Jersey at 130, 140 miles an hour.
Wow.
And we look back and we're like, how stupid some of the things that we did, you know?
How great was Wetlands, though? You just even mentioning that.
Oh, my God. I mean, I was there with the Radiators and the Spin Doctors, and it was just an incredible time. That
was where, I grew up in Manhattan, and people would ask me if I go to clubs, and I'd be like, well, I go to Wetlands. and Wetlands was it was the only hippie club in Manhattan, and they had reggae parties every week, and you could go there. It was just an amazing place, and the city was much different back then. And you bringing that up it brings back my youth, which I love to hear about.
And I don't know how old are you?
I'm 44.
Okay, so I'll be 49 in a couple weeks. So that generation, we got the best ecstasy in the world.
Yeah,
I always talk about that. We got the real real deal MDMA, not like the rave drug that the later generations got. There was 2 colleges in America. One was University of Texas and the other was University of Maryland, and that's where it came from. And my sister was in Maryland. I would go down and buy, 1,000 hits, literally 1,000 for whatever it was, 10 grand. And for the next couple of months, I was the guy giving it to my friends for free. Nobody paid me. It was just, we had a blast.
Well, you had the really strange combination of having unlimited money with the drug problem, which is like, it's very rare to hear that. You know what I'm saying?
I know. And it's crazier than this. I tell people, I'm a drug addict. Thank God I don't think I ever called myself a drug abuser. Like, of course, every night I took 5-6 hits of ecstasy, but even at my worst, when I got rid of the illegal drugs, I didn't take more than 8 or 10 pills a day with the opiates because I would get nauseous at a certain point. So Thank God my system signaled that, because I wouldn't be here to tell my story right now.
Well, your kidney, I mean, you were doing clean ecstasy, and that was another question I wanted to ask. Like, having that much money and you really could curate what drugs you wanted to do. Like, considering the scenes you were in, the money that you had, Dead Scene at the time, there were like specific chemists running around. Did you know those guys who was making what and all that shit?
We did. We kind of knew who had the best stuff, and we just made sure we had a good relationship with them. And they knew if Darren called, Darren always had money, and we all got along with each other. And, of course, they want repeat business. So I would make sure I got the best stuff, and they make sure they give me the best stuff.
Yeah, me and my friends were like just taking whatever we could find wherever we were. It's like our stories are the most opposite drug addict stories in the world. As I would take drugs, everything got worse. And somehow for you, the Prince marketing group came together. And so tell me about when you signed Magic Johnson. You were doing card shows, and Magic was making an appearance, and something clicked in your head, or you had already done the show with Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I already got out of the card business at that point. And what happened was I would go to card shows, and I would start seeing lines of people wrapped around the corner when I got there in the morning. Like, what the hell's going on? And you would hear Joe DiMaggio's here today, Mickey Mantle's here today, Pete Rose, Wade Boggs, Darryl Strawberry. And I was fascinated that you could actually go meet your sports hero, get an autograph, take a picture with them. And I go, wait a minute, this is amazing. And especially, obviously, being insecure, loving that sort of limelight, I was really drawn to it. So, and then I realized you could obviously make a lot of money with it. So through Jeff Hamilton, a famed leather jacket designer, he introduced me to Harlan Runner, who is one of my closest friends in the world. Both of them still are to this day. Harlan is Muhammad Ali's agent, and he was the first one I went after for a private signing. And then eventually Harlan put me in touch with Lon Rosen, who was Magic's longtime player rep, and I developed a relationship with Magic, and I got Chevy Chase on my own and Pamela Anderson, and I did that for about 4 years. I had a very, very successful private autograph signing company where we would broker these signings, and just random companies would buy product, and we had a great mail order company. I mean, did that for, like I said, about 4 or 5 years.
So before you represented anybody, you were setting up signings with them. That was the origin of it.
So that's how I developed the relationships. Yep.
And in that transitionary period, were you like debaucherous, off the charts, taking ecstasy, and were you doing coke too, or no? I don't hear a lot of like.
I did coke. I did coke. There was times. Obviously, I won't mention names, but there was an ex-girlfriend that, by accident, one night we were high on freaking Percocets, and we did a couple lines, and I didn't realize the combination. That became an obsession for years. Almost every night, just sitting in my house and doing coke with the Percocets was almost like a heroinish. Like, I never did heroin, but that's what I was told.
That was my next question. You're in all of these scenes with all of these drugs, and the only drug that's not landing on you is heroin. How did that happen?
I just think everything else worked, thank God. And for some reason, I never found it appealing to inject drugs. Yet I did find it appealing to inject steroids.
Well, but you were snorting. You were snorting Percocets. I mean, yeah. I snorted heroin at first. Like, I'm just surprised in that day and age, because there was dope in those scenes. Oh
yeah. Yep. And I just think of it, I thought it was too difficult, and crazy at the same time. Difficult when you're in public. I'm like, I'm not putting a needle in my arm. I'm like, when I could just snort something or digest something beforehand and
Right. It's just amazing. I mean, that was a great stroke of fortune for you. You know, just an amazing stroke of fortune for you.
Absolutely.
Now, when you were making the transition from signing Magic to doing card appearances and actually representing him, how did that come about? Because from what I understand, he signed with you because he believed in you. What did you do? How did you wow him?
So I wound up getting in a lot of legal problems. I'm not going to get the whole story. I was investigated by the FBI. It's in my book, and I lost everything. The first time in my life, I was in massive debt. I was almost $1 million in debt, on the verge of bankruptcy.
Why did they investigate you? What was it for?
Mail fraud.
Okay.
And I basically got cleared, but they charged me with making a false statement, got a felony charge against me. And my dad basically pushed me. He was always that mentor and said, what's your next move? We were on this epic fly fishing trip. I took him to Alaska with like the last $30,000 I had to my name. He didn't want me to go, being the old school Jewish father. Didn't want me spending the money, but I didn't care. I needed it. And him and I loved to fish. And I said, I want to be an agent, Dad, but I don't have a law degree. So, I want to do the bigger things. I see what these guys do, like the commercials, the intellectual property stuff, the corporate events, the licensing. And he's like, you don't need to be a lawyer. Because, Darren, life is all about who you know, not what you know. And you know more people than the biggest lawyers even know. Why don't you speak to Magic? He supported you through this whole FBI thing. Tell him what your vision is. Maybe he'll give you a shot. And at the time, him and his longtime player rep, Lon Rosenwald, was with a different agency. And, I didn't know what their relationship was. And I was direct with Magic at this point. And so about a month later, I was in Michigan at an appearance we had. And it was almost like God's will at that time, because he was by himself in the hotel suite when I went to get him, and he invited me in his room, had me sit down. He's such an amazing personal guy. Asked about life, asked how I was doing, how I was doing financially, and just said to me, what are you doing with the business? And I just took a deep breath, and I knew I got to go for it. That was my opening. I needed to say something, and I went for it. And I told him what my vision was. And he's like, do you have a good entertainment lawyer? I said, no. He goes, well, you got to better find one. He goes, I love you and I love your family. I want the best for you. I'm going to give you 2 years to represent me as my agent. But if you don't use me to knock down every door, to bring in all the icons and celebrities you can to build your agency, I'm going to fire you before the 2 years is up, because it's not how successful I become, Darren. It's how successful I make you and everybody else around me, that it's a domino effect.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. He's actually sitting here telling me at 25 years old to exploit him.
Well, you know what it is? It's amazing, because he was a master at sharing the basketball. He wanted the people around him to be better so that he would be better, and he used the same principle on you. It's amazing.
Yep.
Because that was his game. His game was to make the team great. I mean, he was so fun to watch. To hear that story, that just shows he played the way he was, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. 100% the same way.
I love that. Tell me about, in that little... Also, how did your dad not know that you were just up to your gills in fucking pharmaceuticals and ecstasy and acid and all this stuff?
Well, I mean, once I started Prince Martin, it was just the opiate. So it wasn't... And I also moved out at a very young age because I had money for my own apartment.
Right,
so
right.
They didn't really know. They'd smell weed once in a while when they come to my apartment and be annoyed and say something. But again, I'm functioning. So they're blinded by the fact that I'm successful and, I got all these employees and great business and, money.
And it's like you were like a hippie. He knew you liked rock and roll, and he knew that was part of your thing, and you're incredibly successful. So let him smoke a little weed or whatever kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they would make comments here and there, but they also knew they weren't going to stop me because whatever. I was, not just functioning, I was thriving.
So talk about the transition from the street drugs to strictly pharmaceutical opiates. And was it because of the Magic deal?
Absolutely. He basically, when I signed with him, the morality clause, that was everything. I did not want to jeopardize this golden opportunity of having him and then knowing I was going to be representing other icons along the way. And I just stopped everything, and it just became all about opiates, oxys, Percocets, and Vicodins.
So he put a clause in called the morality clause?
Any talent that you represent, for the most part, I would imagine to this day, ways. It's reciprocal. The celebrity and the agent both have morality clauses that if one acts out one way or the other, damages their image, that either one of the parties can terminate.
All right. So once you sign this morality clause in your head, you're like, fuck it, I can switch gears and just go totally pharmaceutical.
Exactly.
And what did that look like? You went to a doctor? Did you have were you like Elvis style with doctors lined up who you knew you would get?
I didn't need that. I didn't need that many. I had basically 2 back home, and then I had a couple on the road. If I was in Chicago or LA, I had different doctors. San Francisco, if I ran out. But I really didn't need them because a lot of times, like I said, if I was on like a 5-6 day road trip, I would take enough from New Jersey with me, so it's good to go.
Right. And it was like Oxys, Percocet, and you didn't take no benzos.
I only took benzos if I was doing coke, so I really didn't take them once I started the agency because I wasn't doing coke anymore.
And one of your first really big achievements, and correct me if I'm wrong because I've only been kind of skimming everything and I feel terrible about that. I didn't want to put the interview off another week, though. I figured I wanted to get you on the phone when I could, but I feel stupid that I bought the fucking book today, to be totally honest with you.
No problem.
But I did listen to a ton of your interviews. I listened to you on Anna David. I listened to you on That Sober Guy. I saw you on YouTube. I've been cultivating a little Darren Prince knowledge, so give me a little bit of credit. But
right.
So when you put together the Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier summit, was that like the biggest thing that was happening for you when you did it?
I'll never duplicate anything else like it. I mean, it's think about it. They're the most iconic duo rivalry in the history of global sports. So I don't really know how much more any agent could have accomplished. Not all done by me, but again, nothing to do with money. But look what's going on in the world. It was all about trying to send this message of world peace and these two, kings finally getting together and burying the hatchet to try to send the message across the world. If we can do it, so can everybody else.
Was that in the era? Was that when they had just done those movies, the documentaries on the fights when we were kings, and there was?
Yeah, but it was about a couple years after when we were kings. But it was right after the Ali Frazier One Nation Divisible documentary that was on HBO that won a bunch of Emmys, and so it was just time and. Working with both and having an individual relationship with both of them. My dad helped behind the scenes. Harlan Werner, who's Muhammad's longtime rep, helped behind the scenes tremendously. And it was just a perfect storm. It was NBA All-Star Weekend in Philadelphia. And Harlan calls me that Lonnie, Ali, and Muhammad, that they want us to come to his suite for dinner with his son Marvis. And my buddy Nick, who's one of my agents and business partners, he was in Philly with me for All-Star Game weekend, and we're like, holy shit, bro, this is happening. This is really freaking going down, because once we asked Joe, he felt comfortable that it was in Philadelphia. He didn't want to do it on Ollie's turf in Arizona, Kentucky, or California. He just really had a paranoia that Ollie was going to try to set him up and do something stupid again.
Well, I heard Joe Frazier on the Howard Stern show time and time again, and he would just talk so much shit about Muhammad Ali because Muhammad Ali said some really hateful stuff about Joe Frazier in the 70s. Yeah. And Joe Frazier was so sweet. And he was like, he really hurt me. You know what I mean? Like when you would hear Joe Frazier talk about it, you were kind of like, you felt bad because, Muhammad Ali is this ridiculously charismatic guy who you can't help but love. And then you find out that he hurt, smoking Joe Frazier's feelings. And you're like, oh, man. You know what I mean? Like, and so.
Well, it was even deeper than that. I became a historian. Joe lent Muhammad money when he was banned from boxing. And the minute the fight got signed, for the fight this century, March 8, 1971, Muhammad gets out of the limousine in New York when Joe handed him some money and just starts destroying Joe right in the middle of Times Square. Joe Frazier, you ugly this, you gorilla, just starts destroying him. And eventually casted him as like an Uncle Tom, like a white man's champion. And it caused issues for Joe's kids at school. They'd have to get bodyguards and security and basically turn the entire country against Joe, and then, the world got divided over it, and it was like right in the midst of the Vietnam War, so it became like there were these political figures, and Joe's like, this is just a fight, man, and now because of your comments, you're bringing my family into this. And here I am being a loyal brother giving you money when you're down on your luck and you're still turning on me. So there was a lot of animosity.
And so, and at the summit, Darren is fucking popping Percocets right and left. Nobody's noticing.
I'm high as a kite the entire time because I did not feel worthy of being there in that situation. As well as I knew them both, I just said, this is the craziest thing I've ever experienced. I mean, Nelson Mandela, the president, the biggest rock stars, whoever would have killed to be in my shoes in the moment, and I just couldn't be present for it.
When it happened, was Muhammad Ali too far gone in the Parkinson's to really give a nice apology, or did he give a nice apology?
No, I mean, they spoke a little bit. The Parkinson's was bad, but it was genuine. It was 100% genuine.
I love that story. And I think, not only you're talking about self-esteem and whatever, but you had a habit. If you didn't do the Percocets, you were going to get sick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Did you find yourself in withdrawal a lot? I mean, you were on pills for how many years straight?
I mean, kidding me? Yeah, I was on it. I never let myself get to a point where I was that desperate for them. I always made sure I had them until the end when I tried to get clean. But, I mean, I was on it for 20-something years.
Straight. Like, and since you had these doctors, you would never run out.
No, I've been never run out. 23 years. You got to figure I started when I was 15. I mean, there was obviously random drugs in between, but it was always a constant, the opiates.
Yeah, the opiates, it's amazing because it's amazing how it can hit one person in this way that it makes you feel okay in the universe, and then it hits somebody else and they don't
where
feel
they get violently nauseous, or they don't feel anything, or it just works on pain because they're taking them for the right reasons.
And so when did things start to change for you with the drugs and your career and your life? Like when, because I mean, like your career never suffered from the drugs, right?
Well, I mean, there was a point, I shouldn't say that, there was 3 years into the agency, and I talk about this in the book, I wound up having a lot of tax problems. I was so out of my mind, not paying attention. There was a bunch of money coming in. I wasn't staying current with taxes. There was IRS liens, and because I was so whacked out, I wasn't properly getting things to the account on time. There was penalties, interest, and I eventually crawled out of it, thank God, because there was money coming in. But yeah, the business did suffer because I was so high and not paying attention, thinking like I'm on top of the world. And when I do speeches to high schools and colleges, I talk about that because that is important. It wasn't just a skyrocket job like the baseball card business. There were moments that the drugs definitely hurt and distracted me being on this mission to build an empire of an agency.
Right, and you really did build an empire of an agency. You signed Chevy Chase, who's one of my heroes, Pamela Anderson.
I've been with him the past 2 days in Los Angeles. We took him to the Laker game Monday night.
How's he doing?
And his daughter. He's doing great. He looks great. He's going to be 76 in October. As funny as ever. Him and his wife, Janie, are just amazing people.
There were horrible rumors that he was having a really hard time with pills. Is that true or not true, or you don't want to talk about it?
At some points in his life, he struggled with that stuff, but he's doing great. He's doing great now.
And how did you wind up with Dennis Rodman? A great potential Dopey guest.
Yeah, Dennis, I met during the 95-96 NBA Finals when they were playing Seattle. Jeff Hamilton, the famed leather jacket designer, walked me down to the court, introduced me to Dennis and his agent at the time, and literally that night Dennis invited me to a strip club, Crazy Horse, in Chicago, and I started working through his agent for about three years. They broke up. Dennis and I lost contact for about a year and a half, and then we came together full-time in around 2000.
Did you get high with him? Did he know you were getting high?
Here's the thing. Here's something I always like to stress. Dennis has never done a drug in his life. Dennis's drug is alcohol.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Doesn't smoke weed, never goes near the other stuff, hates it.
Okay.
It's actually very paranoid around it. So we would drink together and party at strip clubs and go nuts, but that was about the extent of it.
That's so funny because I always had the wrong idea then. I always just figured he was a crazy...
It's not just you. Everybody does. Everyone thinks the same thing. Yep.
So then in the book, one of the other things I read about was when he got sober, you were like, good for Dennis, too bad I can't do it. And
exactly.
And so what was that like when you were watching somebody, because he was a total fuck up and he got his life back together, and were you like, fuck, if this guy can do it, why can't I?
Not now, because I was in such denial at that point. Like, the reality was, I was thinking, damn, he got sober, why can't I? But, my back, I got back issues, I've got a lot of celebrities, I'm under a lot of pressure, there was a lot of justification in my mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with the morality clause, you never slipped up. You never found yourself like doing coke or like.
No life. I've never. It's like I said. I was fine getting high the way I was off the opiates. There was no reason to ever go that other direction.
And you got married in that time too, right?
I got married in that time too. Yep. I met my then wife where I was high on opiates. I mean, literally, again, another story in the book. I don't want to keep giving it away, but our very first lunch date, I pulled out a bottle of Vicodins and asked if she wanted one. She looked at me like I was nuts. She didn't understand why I was taking Vicodins.
And you're like, because they're great. That's why I'm taking them.
Exactly. Yep.
You have kids?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, there's always time. There's always time for that. I want to hear about the great sobering up of Darren Prince. What was the thing?
That's the best part of the story. I had an overdose in Las Vegas in February 2007.
What did you overdose on? What was that story?
Tussinex cough syrup, Vicodins, and I was drinking vodka, Red Bull, and cranberry in my hotel room. And that next week when I came home, I called an addiction psychiatrist and told me I was an opiate addict. He put me on Suboxone. So I'm on Suboxone, a mood stabilizer, an antidepressant, anxiety medication, chewing and sniffing on Ambien before I go to bed at night, and occasionally getting drunk during the week to the point of blackout on all that stuff because I don't want to feel anymore. And my uncle and his then girlfriend, who were both in the 12-step fellowship, were visiting my mom in New Jersey. And I never met her before. She just walked into my condo and said, "Are you okay?" And I was at the jumping off point then. My office had no clue what to do with me. And I said, "No, I'm not." And I spilled my guts. I told her everything. She goes, "Do you realize you're an addict? Your life's unmanageable?" I said, "Absolutely." She goes, "Do you realize no matter what you've accomplished in the outside world means absolutely nothing? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to get sober?" I said, 100%. I'm desperate. I'll do anything. And she goes, "I can show you to use your softer way, but you got to listen to me on everything." And she put me on a detox plan. And on the third day, I just came back on a Sunday night, July 2nd, 2008, from working out, and I started getting the cravings out of control.
Yeah.
And I called her and my uncle up and said, "I can't do this. I'm an opiate addict. I'm sick. I need help. I'm going to call the freaking doctor and get opiates." And they both started screaming, "You can't do that. This is the goddamn disease talking. You have to go online. You promised to do anything I told you to do. You need to go to a 12-step meeting, put your hand up and tell these people you're sick, you're suffering, and you need help." I said, "There's no freaking way I'm doing that." I hung up the phone. I ran into the bathroom to take Klonopin, which she was allowing me to take to help with the detox. And as I opened the bottle, I poured it out into my hand. 4 extra strength Vicodins fell out. Me and my then wife thought we cleared out all the medicine cabinets of the opiates. And for a split second, it seemed like a gift from God. And then the change happened. Then the turn. And I heard that this is a curse from the devil. I fell to my knees for the first time in my life, looking up at the sky, trembling, shaking, and crying, saying, "Dear God, help me. I can't do this without you. I need a day of freedom. I'm begging you. Take the money, the notoriety, the business. I do not care." And I felt the warmth on my right shoulder, and I heard the voice, "I've got you, and you're ready."
Really?
I stood up. I flushed the pills. I wound up in the living room a minute later on the computer, found a 12-step meeting on the taxi ride over, thinking to myself, holy crap, what the hell just happened? For the first time in 23 years, Darren Prince wanted to stay sober more than he wanted to get high. And by the grace of God, that was the day I walked into a church basement with 150, 200 people with no shame. I threw my hand right up. They said, "Is anybody new?" I said, "I'm Darren. I'm an addict. I've got 2 days clean. I'm sick. I'm suffering. I'm desperate. I need anybody's help to get through this. I don't know what I'm going to do." And those people, all once addicts and alcoholics that were once of a hopeless state of mind, not Magic Johnson or Muhammad Ali or Hulk Hogan or Dennis Rodman or Chevy Chase or Pamela Anderson, those people in that church basement in the upper 90s showed me the softer you use your life. And one day at a time, they started to love me before I knew how to love myself. And I did the reverse commute back to New Jersey. And that's where I found my home group and the people that slowly gave me this life beyond my wildest dreams. And I had the gift of desperation.
It's amazing. It's amazing because, I mean, you know, like, that didn't happen for me. You know, in those situations, when I'm sick and I'm in the bathroom and I'm going through pills and 4 Vicodins fall out, like, I'm taking the Vicodin when I'm sick. You had a moment, like a real divine inspired moment.
I had the awakening. I had it. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And then, like, wow. So you didn't have you got clean and you never had a relapse.
I never had. I never had a relapse. Well, here's the thing. I tried the fellowship a few years before, but I didn't understand that. I wasn't like you people. You know, you don't understand my life. All the normal. You know, I certainly wouldn't say I was a first-time winner because I was in the program when I was 21 years old, court ordered.
Right.
And again, didn't think I had a problem. I would say from the minute I had the willingness for the first time in my life, and the desire to change, and I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, yeah, then I never had a relapse.
That's awesome.
There was never a desire to get sober and stay sober.
And were you able to go right back to work, or how long did you take to get your head straight and to get your body back? And did you take some time?
I did whatever I had to do every morning, going to the gym. I dieted the best that I could. I made sure my meetings, no matter where I was in the country, I would go to meetings. If I traveled around the world, I would go to meetings. I don't think it's humanly possible, and I don't say this to impress. I say it to impress upon. Not many people in the history of this fellowship have a road meeting record that I do. It's physically impossible. Just in the past year and a half, Sydney, Australia, Monaco, Anguilla, Turks and Caicos, Toronto, Montreal, London. It comes first in my life.
Right.
And last month, I'm with my fiance in Moorea, and we were in the Moorea. I called the call center in Tahiti. They put me in touch with somebody that spoke English and French. I literally took a ferry, 45 minutes each way, because he set up a meeting with 8 people for me in Tahiti.
Awesome.
You know, it's and that's what I learned early on, that this has to come first.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a tough question here, based on this thing. Where in the world was the worst meeting you went to?
Tokyo, and I'll tell you why. It wasn't a bad meeting, but the subject, I only had a day. I was out there for an exhibition basketball game that Dennis Rodman was coaching. I was so bummed out. Here I am in Tokyo. I finally had a half a day, and everything was built around this meeting. And the subject of the meeting was breaking your anonymity on Facebook. It became the whole hour talk because a woman was upset that one of her girlfriends shared how proud she was of celebrating a 1-year sober birthday. I said, come on. I was like, damn it, I'm in Tokyo and that's the subject?
And
I never forgot it.
They talked about it in English?
Oh, yeah. It was an English-speaking meeting. Yeah, so I was like, what a bummer, man. I was like, I got one day here, and that became the topic, the anonymity being broken on Facebook.
Did you share where you're like, you guys suck? Yeah, this isn't even AA. This isn't Facebook. This is AA. What about your sick and stuff?
Yeah.
No.
But look, it was just the fact that I was there. It's never a bad meeting. It's just ones that you get a little bit less out of than others. There's always something you get out of it. You take what you need and you leave the rest.
Well, the best thing about meetings is, like, especially in the beginning, is it's like you're fucked and you get to sit someplace for an hour and be safe and be less fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I love that, and I love being welcomed, and I loved feeling a part of it, and I still love that. You know, another question is, what is up with this Banyan Treatment Center? What's your connection to that? I had Brandon Novak on the show a couple times, and I know he works over there.
That's my boy.
All right.
They were spiritual brothers to the end. He came to two of my book release parties to help me celebrate, one in Florida and one in New York. We're both reps for them. I mean, they're some of the best treatment facilities in America, 11 properties. Joe Tuttle is an old friend I got reconnected with through a mutual spiritual brother, and they're doing everything they can to help change and save lives. You know, so it's an organization I wanted to be associated with because when I'm out speaking, whether it's colleges, businesses, high schools, that when I'm done in somebody really comes clean because some God-given words that day came out of my mouth, impacted somebody, I want to be able to say, hey, I can get you a vet. If you don't have insurance, if you don't have the means to do it, let me put you in touch with these people because they can take you through the detox and everything you need to get that life that you deserve. And it's such a gift to have them, to support a mission like that. It's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you didn't go there, though. You didn't go to Banyan.
No. Mm-hmm.
All right. I really appreciate you coming on, man. It was really cool to have you, and I loved hearing about your story, and I loved hearing about your success, and I loved hearing about, I loved hearing about getting cheap yet very effective and clean ecstasy, as a young man. I think that was very exciting. Let me ask you this: what do you think about fucking Dead and Company? You like John Mayer singing Jerry tunes? How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I've been to a bunch of the shows. I think he's doing a good job. I do. I think he's doing great.
I agree to disagree.
It's just not what it was, but it's not bad.
I just feel like they just need somebody who can sing the song. Like those two, I once interviewed Bob Weir when I was high on heroin years ago at in Asbury Park. And I was a mess, you know what I'm saying? And he was in Rat Dog, and I was in my early 20s, and I was a total dick to him. I just kept asking him what it was like to be friends with Jerry, and he didn't like that. But I thought it was really funny. But now it's like I just feel like I love how John Mayer plays guitar, but he just doesn't sing the Jerry tunes. It's just not the voice. You need a fucking humble and subtle, soulful voice. I feel like if Jeff Tweedy toured with them, it might be something.
He'd be good. He would be good. But I think they've got a good thing with John Mayer, so they're going to keep it.
Of course, and he's a sex symbol for these kids,
exactly,
which is very exciting. But
exactly.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
It's aiming. Before we cut off, so it's aiminghighbook.com. That's where everybody can buy it, either Amazon or aiminghighbook.com.
Yeah, and, you should get this book.
It'll change and save, if not your life, somebody else's. And there's some ups and downs and a lot of inspirational stories about the business world too. So it's really a book for everybody. Making mistakes and growing and learning from your mistakes. What
I've taken away from the bit I've read, it's really an adventure story. And it's an exciting adventure story. Like there's exuberance in it, and I mean there's passion in it. That's why that's what turned me on about the book. Getting clean and getting better and finding God are all amazing things. But having passion is something that I really, really love and relate to.
It's the greatest thing I've done for myself for the longest amount of time. And then once you get real sobriety behind you, you understand that AA means attitude adjustment. And that's what my life is about, staying as peaceful and serene and centered as possible. No matter what's going on, even during the uncomfortable times in life, like the worst loss of my life 2 years ago with my dad, I never felt so comfortable because I stayed connected to the fellowship. And I didn't have a single thought about getting high because I'm a part of the No Matter What Club. And what a beautiful gift that is to be able to have that because of all the spiritual brothers and sisters that came before me that instilled that in me.
Right on, man. Thank you so much for coming on. If you ever need anything from me or audience, just give me a shout, and I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, my man. We'll be in touch.
All right, man. Have a good one. Very cool to have Darren Prince call in on the show. He's doing some good work out there, and I don't know, he's associated with some really, really big-time people, and his story is pretty interesting to me. Now, back to some dopey business. Longtime friend of the show, perhaps the greatest female comedian, addict, and writer, the great Amy Dresner, back on Dopey. How you doing?
Woo! Thank you. Oh my God, that was like a little bit much, but hey, thank you.
Well, let's think for a second. Let's put our heads together. Who is a better drug addict, comedian, writer than you? That's a woman.
I don't do comedy really anymore. That was like 7 years. I stopped doing comedy when I got arrested, when I tried to stab my ex and relapsed. But
as far as I can tell, it's all comedy. It's not. That's comedy.
Yeah, well, I think so. I mean, that's that's the only way to view it, to kind of get through it, I think.
Was Whoopi Goldberg an addict? Was she a crack addict, or was that just shtick for comic relief? Do you know?
I don't know. I never heard that she was an addict.
She probably isn't then. I can't think of a woman, like a notable woman addict comedian. There's a ton of guy ones, but I can't think of a woman one.
Of course, I know. Chelsea Handler is a pretty big drinker.
But she's not in recovery, right?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
That's a really good, actually, yeah. Well, leave it to me to be like the only girl that fucking puts a needle in her arm and does stand-up, of course.
That's an accomplishment.
I get, well, yeah.
Do you have any, when you, like, I was at a meeting this morning, right? And I don't go, I go to like, I'll just say it. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I wasn't particularly the biggest alcoholic. And,
Me neither.
And I'm with very much like middle-aged Long Islanders who are all like classic alcoholics.
Right.
And as I'm sitting there, it was a meditation meeting, and they're a very sweet bunch, these people. But I'm sitting there.
Aren't you enlightened and evolved? You go to meditation meetings? Ugh.
No, well, Wednesday was, I didn't know. Wednesday is the meditation meeting.
It was an accident. That makes more sense.
I walk in, and there's a candle in the room, and it's like, it is such a classic bunch, like, of Long Islanders who, like, they just have the best accents. And one of the women in the group is this older German lady, and she just has the best shares. She's just, I like this group, and I'm surprised that I like it. But as I'm sitting there, after the meditation is about negative self-talk. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, God. Yeah.
And you and I,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
we feast on negative self-talk.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That's like all my writing.
I know. It's like I only make friends through negative self-talk. That's all I do. And so I'm sitting there in the meeting, and I'm staring at my hands, and I still have a bunch of scars from when I used to shoot heroin in my hands.
Wow.
Do you have any needle scars left on you or no?
No, because I was shooting cocaine, and cocaine doesn't do that.
I think I was just terrible at shooting.
No, I mean, I wasn't like, a phlebotomist by any means. But I mean, coke doesn't really leave any scars because it's clear. I do have marks from cutting and from slitting my wrist, though. I have scars on my wrist from that, from when I took a box cutter and just slashed both wrists.
Ay.
So that's hot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody loves a damaged woman.
Do they? Where is that person?
No, everybody.
I need to find him.
You just need to find a damaged man, and then you could be damaged together. They say two sickies can make a welly.
They do not say that.
Doesn't somebody say that? No?
No, they say it doesn't do that.
Two sickies don't make a welly is what they say.
Yes.
So I was talking to Amy last night, and like I follow Amy's social media pretty voraciously. And recently she had this post, and I think the post said something like, "I have ringworm, want to come over," right? It was something like that. And I figured it was Amy with another classic tweet, right? And I call her up or I text her and see if she's ready.
That's how I get dick.
Yeah, I got ringworm, want to come over. I just thought that was funny. But it turns out
the tweet was actually, I've been really depressed and smoking again, but then I got ringworm and that really cheered me up.
I don't know how that makes me laugh.
Yeah, and then later on Instagram, I was like, who wants to come over, put a ring on it? You know what I mean? Just like, whatever, making fun of it. Well, I'm trying to make fun of it because it's so horrible.
Well, let's talk about this. Now, what happened exactly?
I don't fucking know. Truly. I mean, I'm a writer, which means I'm pretty reclusive. I mean, I go to meetings. I work out from home. I have, friends, whatever, but it's like, I have a cat. He doesn't even have it. Colonel Puff Puff doesn't have it. And one day, I just got this red ring on my arm. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, maybe it's psoriasis or, like, eczema. And I start Googling, which is, like, of course, like, the death. You know what I mean? And then you're like, I'm going to die. So you're, and then I was like, maybe it's ringworm.
Where did that thought come from?
Because I had ringworm 10 years ago from a kitten, and I gave it to 5 of my fucking friends in the program.
Wow.
Because it's like, it can be like airborne. You don't have to like get naked and rub on someone. Like if, I don't know how they all got it. But anyway, my neighbor has had ringworm because she has 2 dogs. And I said, what does this fucking look like? And she goes, that looks like ringworm. And I'm like, motherfucker. So I went to urgent care And he was like, yes, that's ringworm. Here's a cream. And, cover it with a bandage at night so you don't give it to your cat. Because that's my big concern is Colonel Puff Puff. Because it cost $2,500 fucking dollars to get rid of his ringworm when he had it a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah, they shave him and they've got to, do a whole, they've got to cover everything in plastic. It's very Dexter. You know what I mean? God forbid, the ringworm gets contagious to, it's on the tools and, whatever. It's gnarly.
$2,500 to deal with a long-haired cat.
Over months to, shave him and dip him in lime where he smells like rotten eggs. And it was a nightmare.
Wait, you dip him in what? In lime?
Lime, yeah.
Like lime, like the green fruit that's kind of like lemon?
No, Lyme.
What is that?
It's some acidy, gross shit that smells like eggs. I'm not a veterinarian. Why are you asking me?
I'm sorry. So back to the story.
So anyway, he tells me to cover it with a bandage. And I'm like, all right. So I go and I go to the pharmacy and I pull up my arm and I say to the pharmacist, look, I have fucking ringworm. And she was like, I got ringworm working at the pharmacy. I'm like, for real? So it's basically everywhere. It's at the market, it's at the gym, it's everywhere. It's it lives on your skin all the time. But if you get stressed out or you have a shitty immune system because you're HIV positive or you fucking, are going through chemo, and I'm just stressed out. I'm not HIV positive. I'm not going through chemo. I got it.
Are you saying that tiny worms live on our skin all the time?
It's not worms. See, this is the thing. It's a horrible name. There are no worms. People are like, is that the one that makes you skinny? No, bitch, that's not the one that makes you skinny.
Which is the one that makes you skinny? Tapeworms.
Like a tapeworm.
Tapeworms make you skinny.
So it has nothing to do with worms.
That's the worst named fucking skin condition I've ever. If it was called striation or red ring syndrome, nobody would be disgusted.
Would be so freaked out. Yeah. So it's super gross because everyone's like, no, there's no worms. I can't teach it tricks. There's no worms. It's basically like athlete's foot.
But you told me, the story you told me last night had you at some clinic where you were quarantined and discussed.
Right, yeah, I'm getting there. So anyway, 2 days later, so I tell all my friends I have ringworm, and now no one will fucking come near me because it's considered super contagious. No one will come in my house. No one will hug me. No one will let me in their fucking apartment. I'm friends with all my neighbors. There's a lot of program people in my building. No one will come near me. They're like, we love you and we love your ringworm. Stay the fuck out of our apartment. I'm like, so I'm starting to feel very isolated and kind of lepery. You know what I mean? I'm starting to feel really gross. So anyway, 2 days later, I'm noticing that it's spreading. Or that's what it looks like. I have a second ring coming up. And I'm like, motherfucker.
Where's the rings? Where's the first one?
It's on my forearm. And then underneath where the bandage was, you could see a whole pink rectangle where the bandage was. So I'm like, why? My skin does not like that bandage. And then there's a second ring right next to it. One of my producers is like, is it like the fucking Olympics sign? I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. They're like, they intersect, three of them? I'm like, fuck you. So I think it's spreading, and I go to the walk-in clinic where my primary is, and they treat a lot of homeless people there. I have really high insurance.
Yes.
Welcome to being a writer. And, there's tents outside, and, there's, homeless people can shower, and da-da-da-da, and it's that's a great community service.
You'd think it was the place to actually contract ringworm, actually.
Right. So, it's so I walk in, and I'm like, hi, I'm just here as a walk-in. There's no appointments available. I have ringworm. They immediately take me into a room and quarantine me for 4 fucking hours.
4 hours?
And they're like, you can't go upstairs. You're not allowed. And I was like, wow. So I'm waiting for some doctor to see me. I'm waiting for someone to not show up for their appointment. Sitting there, my phone's dying. No one, I'm just like, oh my God, kill me. Hours I'm being quarantined in a place where, I can hear, homeless people screaming in the shower, whoever, completely psychotic. A guy comes in, and he's, super dirty, and I'm like, I don't think you want to be in here, bro. I have ringworm. And he goes, I'm just using the phone to call a church to find out about housing. And I was like, all right, dude. And he was like, he calls the church. He's like, so you guys really strict? I love that, right? That's so addicts, right? It's we'd rather live on the street with freedom than be in a strict, sober living.
Then have a strict roof over our head. Totally.
Right. So finally I see a doctor, and he's like, I hear you, he like shakes my hand, and I'm like, ooh. And I was like, he goes, I hear you have a rash. And I'm like, bro, I don't have a rash. I have ringworm. And he goes, okay. So he puts a glove on, and he looks at it. He goes, yeah, you have ringworm. And I go, what's this other second one? He goes, that's contact dermatitis. You're allergic to that bandage. And I was like, okay. And he goes, you shouldn't ever cover ringworm. I don't know why that doctor told you. Because it creates like a little hothouse. And then it's like creates the, like where like it's moisture and the fungus can grow and reproduce. It's like a little house for it. So he just said, I'm going to give you a cream. And I just said, and he touched my arm. Then he took off the glove and he touched my arm with his hand. And I just felt like, oh my God, human contact.
Right.
Like, thank you. And I said, I'm itchy everywhere. I don't know if I'm being like paranoid or hypochondriac. And he goes, I said, my head itches. And he goes, do you want me to look at your scalp?
He's like, would you like me to shampoo your hair?
I know. I loved him. I was like, I need to marry this person. He's so empathetic.
Was he handsome?
Yeah. He was like a very like ruddy linebacker kind of corn-fed guy.
All right.
Not really my type, but I was like, he was so kind. And I said, I swear I don't smoke meth anymore. And he just was like, okay. You know,
he's like, that's what everybody with ringworm tells me.
So he looked through my hair with his bare hands, and I was like, I'm in love with you, you know. And he was like, you're good. Your scalp's fine. Like, he's like, it's no big deal. It's not as contagious as people think. It's a reaction to your own flora. Like, people are overreacting. But when I was sitting in that room waiting for him, I never wanted to use so bad in my life. I looked at the cabinets, and I was like, I bet there's syringes here. I want to shoot cocaine. Fuck my life. And it wasn't just the ringworm. It was like being celibate for 2 years and like being broke and like being depressed. And I was just kind of like, And
did you, Amy, wait. Did you really have that thought?
I really did. I looked at the cabinets, and I was like, 2 are locked, and I bet those where they fucking have the syringes. They're not stupid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember once where I was at a vet when I was using, and I saw syringes just like out, and I thought, you dumb fucks. You know what I mean? Like, I once stole syringes from a clinic. I did. For B12 shots. I once got a prescription for B12 shots, and then just threw away the B12 and just used the syringes.
I was going to ask you for some reason if you ever had gotten an actual B12 shot.
I have. They're awesome. It used to make me really high and manic, but now I guess I have enough B12 that it doesn't do that. It's fun for me. Everyone else is irritated by me, but I have a great time.
They're still giving out B12 shots? Is that a thing still?
It's LA. Yeah.
I've never had a B12 shot.
You get it in your ass or your arm, and it's like, if you're really depleted, you'll feel really like, woo, you know?
Where do you get B12 other than in a B12 shot?
Am I a nutritionist? I don't know. Dark veggies. I don't fucking know. You can take it. You can take sublingual B12. You can whatever.
In the old days, people would get the B12 shot and be all fixed up. You know what I mean? Like, it was a thing.
Yeah, but that was because in the old days it was fucking mixed with fucking amphetamine.
Right.
Like Kennedy and all that shit.
Yeah, those were the good B12 shots.
Like, that's my ideal fucking B12 shot. Hello.
So you had this feeling like you and how often do you...
No, I really did. I was just like, I want to use. I fucked my life. And I was like, and I'm 6 years clean, you know, and I'm going to speak in Ohio, and I'm going to speak in Reno, and I just thought, fuck, I cannot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm on this, like, you know, people are like, I love your book, and thank you so much, and you're an inspiration. And I'm like, fuck.
You're like, I'm shooting amphetamines with B12 and fuck you.
Yeah, it was like, and I just thought, God, I'm like trapped now by like being known as being in recovery, and like I can't use. And then my head's like, you can use and not tell anyone, which is so alcoholic and addicty. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea, dude. And so anyway, I called my friend Dr. Howard Wetzman, and he's an addictionologist and a psychiatrist, and he used to own Townsend Treatment Centers in Louisiana, and he's also sober, and he's amazing. And I've quoted him in a lot of fixed pieces, and I just was like crying, and I was like, I'm so depressed. I fucking ringworm. I really want to use. I'm smoking cigarettes again. Like, what the fuck, you know?
What did he say?
And he just said, well, first of all, he said, you know, he just put a YouTube video up where when you are made to feel less than, it lowers your dopamine. Automatically, it lowers your dopamine tone. When you're shamed or made to feel less than, it lowers your dopamine tone. And as addicts, our brain goes, fuck, low dopamine tone. We need to up the dopamine tone. And it's like, how can we do that? And it doesn't care where it gets it from. Like a chocolate eclair or a dick or pussy or heroin or, you know what I mean? Nicotine. It's just like, we got to get the dopamine.
Right.
Gambling, it doesn't matter. It's like, we got to get the dopamine now. Your brain is like, whoa, alert, low dopamine. And so that's why I was smoking. That's why, and he goes, so don't you feel like being quarantined and being treated like a leper and your friends not coming? Don't you think that even though it's just one red little ring on my forearm, like less than the size of a quarter, you know? And he's like, don't you feel like, did that make you feel less than? I'm like, oh God, yeah. He goes, did that make you feel ashamed? I'm like, totally. I felt disgusting. And then it triggered all those thoughts, like me walking through TSA with like track marks on my neck and that shame, and me relapsing over and over and over again and coming back into AA, like with like having been a secretary and having years and then having relapsed, or me on the chain gang sweeping the streets and the fucking crew boss saying your guys are criminals, or like people not talking to us because we had like clean team uniforms and we were considered criminals. And it just brought up all this shame.
Right.
And feeling less than. And he goes, that's why it lowered your dopamine.
Right.
And he goes, and that's why you wanted to use. And I was like, oh.
Well, that makes sense.
I was like, yeah. And he was just like, and that just made me feel like we have to be so careful to not shame addicts. You know what I mean? At all.
But let me flip this on you for a second though, because you're an addict and you're in recovery and you felt shame, but you didn't use. So what did you do? Like, how did you deal with it?
I cried. I smoked cigarettes. I called people. I called Wetzman. I called my sponsor. I called my dad. And then I wrote a piece about it for the Fix. I'm writing a piece about it for the Fix if she'll take it. Because I think it's really interesting to see how ringworm triggered my alcoholism. And it's like, you know, it really, really did.
Totally.
I've never wanted to use so bad in my life. I literally was like, okay, if I'll fuck it, you know? And
but you didn't.
Why.
Do you think writing the piece for the Fix gave you a little dopamine? Because you like...
Absolutely. As a writer, absolutely. And it gave me also like... For me, if I can reframe it and it can help someone or I can make it funny, then it doesn't feel as shaming. You know what I mean? And then I talked to you and you said you had a fucking fungus on your neck. And then I felt like, let's talk about fungi, junky fungi.
Well, check it out. Before we get any further in my own disgusting skin condition story, I just want to say...
you feel grossed out too.
Oh, dude, I'm a disgusting person, though. I have lots of issues. But... the thing about your story that I think is the most important is like, yeah, we don't want to shame. No addict should, nobody needs to be shamed. But the trick is, if you're an addict and you get shamed, you don't have to use. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I self-shamed myself. I was like, I'm so gross, blah, blah. And like the self-hatred that came up and blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to use, and I have wanted to use in my 6 years. And I have not. You know
what I want to do like every day? Is fucking smoke. I want to smoke, and I
fucking did that for about a week and a half, and I'm trying to stop today because it's so gross. I can't even tell you. I get the worst headache. Everything smells. It's disgusting.
What kind of cigarettes do you smoke?
Parliament Lights.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's so disgusting, and now it's raining outside. Am I going to be one of those fucking losers? It's like, goes outside in the rain to smoke. I was like, fuck that, and I want to vape again. But I'm just like, no, dude, no.
Let me tell you, if you're smoking, get an umbrella, and you stand under your umbrella and enjoy your cigarette.
I know. But you know what? I smoke a cigarette in like 4 drags like a crackhead.
No, I'm the same.
No one's ever seen me. No one's ever seen it. They're like, what the fuck? I don't like sit and enjoy it. I'm looking for the nicotine. I'm looking for the dopamine. I don't enjoy smoking. I'm not like, yay.
No, that's the lie. It's the lie.
Leisurely. Right. Yeah, but I see other people leisurely smoke and just talk and chat. That's not, I go out there and I fucking just, in like 3 puffs, it's out.
Yeah.
It takes me 30 seconds to smoke a cigarette.
No, I think you're probably exaggerating. I used to smoke in between work. And I would like, while I was waiting tables, like I would be in the middle of serving and I would go out and I would smoke, and I would really condition myself to believe that was my time. You know what I mean? Like when I went out, but like everybody in my family got so mad, and my lungs are bad. Like I would get bronchitis like twice a year, and I would wheeze and shit. It was gross.
Oh shit.
But so I'm happy not to smoke, but I do miss smoking. But I also know that if I smoke a cigarette, it's like there's no one cigarette for me.
That was my mistake. Yeah. That was my mistake. Yeah. I fucking bummed a smoke off a sponsee at a meeting, and I just thought, just one. And then, a couple days later, I bummed another one. And then, fucking, what do you know? I'm buying a pack.
Right. If I smoke a cigarette, I'm buying a pack. There's no doubt.
Well, that's, I've done this experiment a zillion times. And every time I think, I'm like, it'll be okay. Like, the first pack lasted a week. And I was like, that's pretty good. And the second pack lasted 2 days.
Right, exactly. I would smoke. I would get a pack, and the first pack would last like 3 days, I bet, and then I would get a pack every day. But I'm going to tell you. I have 2 stories to tell you. You want to hear my skin condition story?
Come on. I was like, tell me about your fungus.
All right. Well,
that's hilarious that we both have a skin fungus.
Well, mine is like really kind of sad. If you want to know the truth, the truth is that years ago, like I want to say like 4 years ago, I brought my daughter back to her mother's house, and me and her mother like weren't together from the beach, or maybe we were just getting back together. And my daughter's mother's named Linda, and Linda's like, she's like, Dave, what's going on with your neck? And she even said, is that ringworm? And I said, no. And I look at it, and I have this like 2-toned skin. Like it's like tanner in one spot and less tan in another. And if you look at it, it looks like very, very not good. So I went to the dermatologist, and he was like, you have so-and-so. And he told me what to buy, but I'm just so fucking irresponsible. I just was like, it didn't itch. It didn't bother me. Just Linda made me feel kind of shamed about it. But I got over it. And then like the next year, I go to my barber, this old Russian guy named Igor, and he goes, you have terrible rash on your neck. And I was like, oh yeah, is it still there? And it's still there. I've never done anything about it.
You didn't treat it.
No.
Oh my God.
I've got untreated some sort of like 2-toned fungus on my neck, and I live with that.
Cream on it. No, just put a cream
What kind of cream? What kind of cream?
Well, I'm sure he told you, and probably give you an RX. He probably give you a prescription. Just go get the prescription cream. But mostly, it's like they're all clotrimazole, like any antifungal cream.
I did it. I got some antifungal, and I started putting it on, and I didn't get the results quickly enough, and I stopped putting it on. But
you have to be really diligent about it. You've got to do it like 2 to 3 times a day till the thing is totally fucking gone. And it's like, he probably gave you a prescription, which is better than just some like, athlete's foot spray or yeast infection cream or whatever. But it's like, yeah. He gave me a different cream, and I'm just putting it on, but it's like, then it looks much, much better. But, and my friend came over yesterday and brought me bath salts, and he had ringworm too from like a mess run, like a gay guy. Was
bath salts the thing you could smoke and die from?
Yeah, no, he brought me actual bath salts, lavender bath salts you take a bath in. Yeah, bath salts, fuck that.
On Dopey,
and he was like,
come on.
Yeah. And he came in and hugged me, and I was like, thank you for fucking, thank you. And he was like, oh my God, girl, like, I don't, I've had it, no big deal. Like, he treated me like a fucking human being, but it was really interesting to me. I think that, like, shame is, like, the worst thing we can do to people, that are using or that relapse, and it just because, and I know in my experience that every time I relapsed and I felt shame or someone shamed me for my use, I relapsed more. I used to get rid of the shame because, like, now I know it lowered my dopamine, and then I wanted to up my dopamine.
Right.
And there's a lot of shame with being an IV drug user.
Right. That's interesting. I mean, like, it's so. I don't know what I was gonna say. I mean, I fucking
But, like, I'm back to wearing long sleeves. I'm like, no, it's like the old days.
Oh, because of the ringworm, you're wearing long sleeves.
Yeah, I'm like, fucking right. I'm like, this is like the old days.
How long will it take to go away?
I don't know. It looks much better. I mean, fully they use the cream for 2 to 4 weeks, but it's already so much better.
I think it's weird that I don't have shame for what I did in the past anymore. Like, I feel like the shame has gone away from me. Like, I just do. Like, I don't tell people where I'm going to feel shame. You know what I mean? Like, actually, you know, I told one of my neighbors about it, okay? I told one of my neighbors, not about my skin condition, but that I used to shoot dope. And he doesn't talk to me anymore. And I ran into him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's a very conventional guy. And I ran into him.
Shit?
Dude, I ran into him at my daughter's school science fair last night. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Why don't you talk to me anymore? And he didn't say anything about it. But it's interesting. You want to hear something really funny?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I got to get the picture because I don't remember what it said. So my daughter is, you know, she's 9. She's in 3rd grade, and they do a science fair for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades in her elementary school, or maybe just the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I think is the grades, and I was pretty unimpressed with the science fair, to be honest with you. But I saw one science fair booth, and you know they all have their headline of what they like want the thing to be or whatever. And the one that I liked was gluten-free desserts. Yummy or not? And that was the science project. And I took a picture of it, and I just
That's hilarious.
I wandered. Everyone's like, which one's your favorite? I was like, gluten-free desserts, yummy or not?
That's really funny.
I loved that science fair project. I had my Linda had her friend come over the other night, and he's like a social worker type, whatever. And I was talking about smoking because he smoked. And I remember whenever I do something that I really like to do, like smoke or eat cookies or get high, I remember I had this phrase that would pop in my head, which is, I could do this all day. You know what I mean? Like if it was in the morning and I was sitting with a friend and I was smoking cigarettes and talking, I wished I could just do that all day.
Right. Yeah.
Or if I was eating cupcakes. Like there was like there's this kind of cupcake, and they don't make them anymore. But when I was a kid, they made these Entenmann's cupcakes, and I don't know if they have Entenmann's in California. Do they?
I did a commercial for them years ago.
You did? Well,
yes.
And do they have it in California?
Was it called Entenmann's? I think it was. I think so. I don't know. I don't eat that shit.
Dude, so they had these cupcakes that were just...
I think I did a commercial for them, yeah. Oh my God, how embarrassing.
They were so good. They were like chocolate on the bottom and it had this thick icing on the top that you could remove. And the icing was like very, very rich chocolate. And inside the cupcake was this very rich cream. And I would eat those cupcakes and think to myself, I could do this all day, you know? And it was that same thing. And so I told my Linda's friend this story, and he said, you probably have naturally very low dopamine levels.
No shit, Sherlock.
It's like, yeah, that's probably why I became a heroin addict. But
of course.
But I just think I never heard anybody say that to me before. I don't know. It was very interesting to me.
Well, there's also, there's an enzyme mutation that many addicts have. It's called the motherfucker gene. That's the actual short version of it. It's like a whole long scientific name, where we can't get L-methylfolate from green vegetables as well as normal people. We cannot, which is what creates dopamine and serotonin. And many, many addicts, if they test for it, have a mutation in that gene, in the motherfucker gene. And so they have to, if you take L-methylfolate, it can really help.
Where do you get that?
There's lots of different brands. I mean, I take something called Enlight D. It doesn't fix it for you. I mean, when I first took it, it was like a come to Jesus moment. I felt like, you know what I mean? But then, yeah. And it's like, it can be weird if you take it with SSRIs, because then you can have too much serotonin. And when you create too much serotonin, then it lowers your dopamine. It's like a whole fucking cycle. It's like, I know way too much about this now.
So would you recommend this stuff to addicts out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a type of B12, it's a type of B complex. Yeah, because if you don't need it, you'll just piss it out. I think if you're on a lot of medications, especially SSRIs, you should run it by a fucking psychiatrist for sure. I mean, I haven't had to lower my Prozac, but a lot of people have had to lower their SSRIs because, it's too much. It can be serotonin syndrome. You can get too much serotonin, which then lowers your dopamine, and then you're just fucked. But yeah, I wrote an article about it for the Fix too, called do you have low dopamine tone? And it's all, again, Wetzman stuff, because I just think he's a fucking genius, and he's just been so kind to me. I call him crying, and he's just such a good friend, and he's just that perfect mix of like program and science and humor and, you know, not that I don't call my sponsor, but my sponsor was like, double up in your program. I'm like, boo. You know what I mean? Like,
and this guy gives you the science of the issue.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
He was just like, but that's the other thing too, is like when we come into the rooms, you know, we feel less shame because we feel we're around other people who like also have been arrested, who also have fucking have restraining orders, who've also OD'd. And so there's that sense of camaraderie and community, and the shame falls away, and that lifts your dopamine. That's another reason AA works.
Fellowship gives you dopamine, like cool people that you meet. Friendship gives you dopamine.
Yes.
Exercise gives you dopamine.
Yes.
Fucking sex gives you dopamine. Chocolate probably gives you dopamine.
Probably.
You know what my big fear is right now? And it's like, I'm like, this is going to sound stupid, but I'm like all of a sudden like really convinced that I have fucking diabetes.
Why?
I don't know, because I overindulge on sweets at night. I mean, like, I'm
just
bad.
Go get your fucking blood sugar tested.
I just don't want them to tell me. Like, I don't want to hear about it. Oh, my
God, that's so addicty. It's like, put the pill in the drawer and don't look at it.
I know. I have to fucking go.
Yeah, but you can you can get it under control with diet. My mom was pre-diabetic or diabetic, and she got it under control with fucking diet.
But what kind of life is that?
Where you shoot insulin. Like, what, you want to have fucking needles? I don't eat sugar. I don't even crave sugar.
I know, but I do. I have a real problem with it. I have a serious problem with it.
Yeah, but you're probably, like, addicted to sugar then.
Check it out. Last night, my dad came over, and he was like, he's always supposed to come at 5 for dinner, and he leaves his house at, like, 1. And I'm like, Dad, don't come early, you know, because he just comes too early. And it's like, he's like, don't worry, I've got this and that to do. So he calls me at 3 o'clock. And he's like, I'm at Costco. Do you need anything? And I'm like, yeah, get some Diet Coke. So he's like, okay, do you want anything else? And I'm like, no. And he comes over and he brings like 36 cans of Diet Coke. But then he brings this fucking box of chocolate chip cookies. Okay, it's like 50 huge, delicious chocolate chip cookies. And I have a real problem with these cookies.
I don't know. Maybe you need to go to OA now. Like,
it's possible. It's
What's
possible.
going on? Are you fat, Dave?
I'm not that fat, but I'm not that skinny either. I'm a little bit fat. I'm a little fatter than I'd like to be. But let me continue. So, and my dad's telling me he is on some fucking fitness kick, and he's bringing me 50 cookies. I'm like, what are you doing?
God.
And then I'm like, I'm not going to eat the cookies. My daughter has a cookie. Linda has a cookie. They go to bed. Then I got on the phone with you. And then after I got off the phone with you, I was like, you know, I think I'm going to have a couple cookies. And I went downstairs. I had 5 cookies, okay? And in the morning, Linda looks at me, looks at the box of cookies. She looks at Nora and she goes, how many cookies did you have? And she figures out that I had 5 cookies, and she opens up the box of cookies, and she takes dishwashing detergent and she covers the cookies in dishwashing detergent.
Oh, yeah, I used to do that when I had an eating disorder.
She covers the cookies, and she's like, because if I throw it in the garbage, you're probably going to eat it out of the garbage.
That's eating disorder shit. Did you ever have an eating disorder? That's what I used to do.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's eating disorder shit, because you'll get it out of the trash, but if you put dishwashing detergent over it, you won't fucking eat it.
Can I tell you the truth, though? I don't think I would take it out of the garbage. I think she would. I think that's why she did it. But I have an issue, and I need what I haven't done yet is I haven't 12-stepped my eating. I 12-step my smoking, and I obviously 12-step drugs, but I have not like made a decision to turn my will over to the care of higher power to get me out of this thing. You know,
right.
And the second I decide to pray to not eat sweets, I think I could get over this thing. I just really like them. I see it as this big reward for the end of the day. It's a problem, though. It's a problem. It's an issue.
I get it. I mean, I'm not really... I mean, for me, like, nicotine is the big one right now.
Yeah, I don't know how, like...
Like, I opened that fucking Pandora's box back up, and now I'm like, well, now I want to vape again, and blah... And I'm like, oh, God. You know what I mean? Like, today is day 1, and I'm like, don't do it. And it's like, let's see how long I last. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a night... I mean, I love nicotine. Love it.
Yeah, I do, too. I do too.
I don't even drink coffee anymore because people are like, "Don't be around me when you drink coffee. You're so annoying and hyper."
So you're off caffeine, but you're back on nicotine.
I'm on yerba mate, which is like a caffeinated tea, but it's more mild. It's not like it's coffee, which can really throw you up and then you crash back down. I mean, there's a meme going around. I don't know if you see it on Instagram. And it's like, said obviously, just fuck me up is not an actual order at Starbucks, which is such an addicty thing, right? Just fuck me up.
I don't get affected by caffeine. You know,
oh my god, I get so affected.
I think I'm just naturally up. I think let's do an email. Which one do you want to do? You read? I gave you those emails. Pick one and read it, if you don't mind.
You want to do the young one?
Yes, do that one first.
Okay. So, do we say who it's from?
No, just say first name.
Okay. So, dear Dave, I'm a ninth grader in high school.
Ninth grader.
Right, which is fucking young. So you're what? Like, how old is that? Like
14? I think 15? 14.
And in the past 6 months or so, my closest couple friends have all started popping pills. It started with Oxy and then turned into taking many perks at once. They pop pills during the week and weekend and seem to be going downhill. I sent this email because I was curious where it all started for you and any advice you would have for them because I feel they're going down the path to becoming dope fiends as adults. Sincerely, Alvin.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy to me to think about young kids listening to the show.
Me too.
You know, I don't picture that. I mean, for me, I started smoking weed at the end of high school, and I didn't start doing heroin until the middle of college, and I didn't become addicted to heroin until a few years after. I was not a candidate. I didn't seem to be a candidate to become a drug addict when I was 14, even though probably inside I was total textbook drug addict. You know, what about you?
It's exactly the same. I was actually super anti-drug. I was super purist. I didn't drink till I was 19. I didn't smoke pot till I was 21, and I didn't start doing crystal till I was 24. And within, then I was just hooked. I was on. But like you said, I was exactly textbook. Like, I felt different. I felt less than, I got like a weird eating disorder first and da-da-da-da. And it's like, it's all, I was like, I had all that stuff set up.
Totally. Me too.
But yeah, I can't imagine,
So what do you advise? What do you advise Alvin?
God. Well, I mean, a lot of people, first of all, you're not going to tell them, like, don't do that, and they're going to stop doing it. Number one, we're very reactive people. So if you tell us not to do something, we're going to do it. We're going to be like, fuck you, and we're going to do it. Number two, it's like, I mean, it is concerning. I do think that some people go through experimental phases when they're young and put it down.
Yeah.
So I don't think that everyone who uses drugs becomes a drug addict. Like, I know people who do coke on the weekends or do coke once a month and have a bag, and like that was never me. As soon as I picked up, it was on.
Yeah, me too.
And and that was it. And it's like, but a lot of people have an experimental phase when they're young and they put it down and they grow out of it. That's why I'm always like a little bit hesitant. Like when people are like, get sober at like 15 or 16, it's like, are you sure?
Right, because there's a lot of safe experimentation at that point, possibly.
Yeah.
And
this is concerning, but it's like he just, it's like I don't know that there's any intervention that you can do. When you're not going to scare them straight, they're gonna, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. What do you think? I don't think there's anything. There's a way to take a budding drug addict, if they are that, and get them to stop until they've really hit something. All
I think is like, it's like what somebody would say in 12-step, which is like, it's none of your business what they do. You do your own thing, Alvin. If you like getting high, you might have a very, very hard road in front of you, and you might not. I don't want to hear about. I don't want my daughter to enjoy. I don't think
he's doing it.
Exactly.
His friends are doing it.
So he's probably gonna have Alvin's probably gonna have to find new friends. He just probably will. Or become a terrible drug addict with these junkie friends of his.
Or go to Al-Anon at fucking in ninth grade.
He'll be the youngest Al-Anon. Do they say Al-Anonian? He'll be the youngest
I have no
Alanonian
idea.
ever. But I appreciate the email, Alvin. And if you're young and listening to Dopey, send in an email. I love to hear about that stuff. It's very interesting to me. Now,
it doesn't end well, guys. I will tell you that.
No, it's terrible.
It escalates and escalates and escalates, and it ruins your life, and it's so not worth it. And that's all I have to say. Like 20 years of my life was spent being a drug addict and going in and out of rehabs and psych wards and jails, and it sucks.
Well, that's why, like, the fact that you didn't use when you felt like using, it would all get fucking toppled. You know what I mean? Well,
that's the old thing. I mean, my sponsor was like, there's nothing when things are good that getting high is going to make better, and there's nothing when things are bad that getting high is not going to make worse.
Right.
And it was like, I know that, but it's like my brain is still like, hey, I want, that's what we want. And I'm like, okay, that's great. You know, and also the thing was I wanted to contact my ex-boyfriend, like all of these places. I was looking for some kind of relief. I was looking for some kind of dopamine. I was looking for something. And I did none of that. I smoked, but I mean, that was it. You know, and I drank a Mountain Dew, which was like what I used to do when I was a tweaker, drink Mountain Dew, because it has the highest caffeine of all sodas.
Right. Except Jolt. Did you guys have Jolt out there?
No. See, I'm scared to drink that shit because I have a seizure disorder. And if I drink too much caffeine, I used to drink Monsters and I gave myself a seizure. I can't now. I have epilepsy from Crystal, so I got to be really careful.
Right. Now, are you ready to play the Dopey game show?
Oh, yeah.
The Stash Word. Are you ready?
What's this? The Stash Word?
The Stash Word is this. I am going to put a minute on the board. And then, like $25,000 pyramid, I'm going to describe something or ask you something, and you are going to answer. And we are going to see how many of the Stash Word answers that you can get right in 1 minute.
What are the Stash Word answers? I don't understand. I'm confused.
I'm going to give you a question.
This is baptism by fire. You didn't fucking tell me about this, bitch.
I know.
What?
I figured you'd like this. I
don't like surprises. Okay, go.
Did you ever watch The Password on TV or the $25,000 pyramid? No? All right.
No.
I'm going to describe something, and you're going to tell me what I'm describing, okay?
Okay.
And we're going to... Dude, you can't win anything or lose anything, so there's really not many stakes.
I want money from you.
Well, there's no money. I could send you a pastrami sandwich in the mail.
I want cookies.
What kind of... Okay. If you win, you will get a cookie. All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
Right.
Question number 1. A plunger and a barrel are parts of what? You only have a minute. A plunger and a barrel are... And these are all having to do with drugs. You can say pass if you want.
Thanks for telling me that now.
Yeah,
IV drug use.
Well, sure. We'll say a syringe. An outdated measurement for weed, also referring to the top of a jar.
Lit.
Yes. But for the blank of God go I.
Grace.
Yes. The name for a crack whore that exchanges sex for crack.
Crack whore.
Well, say pass.
Wait, hold on.
You're going to run out of time.
Okay, pass.
So, this is my friend Sam wrote these. They're very hard. Here. Sometimes still called dysmorphobia, the mental illness cripples individuals into thinking that some part of their body...
Body dysmorphia.
Yes.
I have it.
In a normal functioning central nervous system, this transmits moods and regulates blood flow. We're out of time.
Neurotransmitters.
That is dopamine. But you did all right.
That's not no.
I think you might have beaten Anna David. I think she got 3.
What's the crack whore one?
A strawberry? I never even heard of that before.
Oh, yeah, fuck. Okay, yeah.
You want to hear the other ones that you didn't get to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, the Stash Word is fun, right?
Yeah, it is fun. But it would have been helpful if you told me everything had to do with drugs at the very beginning.
I just figured you'd know. It's a Stash Word on Dopey.
I was like, you were saying plunger, and I was like,
toilet, plumbing.
I was like, yeah, toilet. I was like...
Well, you did okay. You want
what are
the rest of the questions?
Get better next time. What else?
What is one predatory drug that is used to incapacitate a victim?
Oh, roofies.
Sure. The Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is said to refer to what drug?
LSD.
Yeah. Don't worry. I want to save these. We'll save these questions for another time.
This is fun.
Oh, yeah. It's great. It's great. Stash word is great. Now, what were we going to do before we left? Oh, we got a voicemail.
Do a voicemail.
Yeah, here we go. Let me play the voicemail. Hold on.
Hey, Dave, how's it going? Hey, Dopey Nation. I'm on the way home from work. Figure I'd send you a quick voicemail, tell you a quick story. Back in the day, had a 250 milligram plus Roxy habit a day. And like any other fiend, I would go to extreme lengths to get the things. And I've always had good jobs during my habits, but this one in particular, I had a boss who dealt in guns all the time. He had pistols and rifles and shotguns. Well, I remember him calling me earlier on that week saying, hey, I got this pistol. I'll get it to you real cheap. You can resell it or whatever and make yourself some money. I said, all right, cool. Went over there and he said, oh, there's one problem. This thing don't have a serial number. He said, so you're going to want to keep it on the down low and just be careful with it, basically. Actually, I didn't think he gave a fuck. I don't think he told me to be careful, but anyway. So I remember texting one of my dealers, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm short on funds right now. Can I get you a pistol? And you give me, say, like 4 Roxys. I think I made a deal for like 4 or 5 Roxys. Like, oh, I'll think about it. Let me get back to you. He says, yeah, come through, bring a pistol. I'll check it out, So I go over, knock on his door. He brings me in, leads me into his garage where he's going to check out this pistol. And I fucking see these 3 guys with pop cans turned over and the bottoms cut out, and they're fucking cooking up their Roxys, getting ready to shoot up. I remember thinking to myself then, I'm thinking, man, I'm in here with these needle junkies, and fuck, I need to get my shit and get out of here. I need to get rid of this pistol, and I'm like judging the fuck out of these people. Like, oh, what am I doing here? Gotta get my shit and go. And then fucking later on, I get my shit, and I'm thinking, I'm fucking judging these assholes for being needle junkies, and here I am trading a fucking scratch serial pistol for 5 Roxys. Funny how the world turns. Anyways, just a quick little Dopey story. You guys, everybody keep it real, and toodles.
That is a longtime Dopey fan, listener, and Twitter contributor, Kevin Kuntz. I hope I'm saying his name right. I always want to say Kevin Kuntz. But thank you for the voicemail. Right, Amy?
Thanks, Kevin. That's right.
It's a good voicemail. Before we go, I just want to read some new Dopey reviews that I really like.
Woo!
This one I just have to read it. It's called Ibogaine by Pandersoj, and it says, I've been binging Dopey in reverse since querying heroin in This American Life. By the way, there exists a couple of other good dope-related This American Life episodes for anyone interested. Dave has a rare natural ability to connect with people on a deep level indiscriminately. I think he's just getting comfortable with his newfound talent. Nice. Leading him to endlessly coax reassurance from his guests. Did you feel reassured?
Absolutely.
Good. Confirming he's doing a great job. I'm jealous of his extroversion and ability to maintain friendships in a family. These connections are rare in recovery, and loneliness is one of the many hallmarks of it. I believe this is the cornerstone in his stable abstinence. Dave's honesty is honorable. I connect more to Chris, being a privileged wasp that likes to tinker with his brain chemistry and is fascinated by the science of drugs. I'm currently smoking a gram of dope a day, have been off and on for about a year, and have some fire coke tonight, which is unusual, but welcome as I have to stay up all night due to my sleeping till 4 today. Have to get back on schedule, right? I've never shot dope and don't plan to, but reluctantly assisted my ex in puncturing her tiny veins many times. Before the dope that I never thought I'd become addicted to, I was a self-medicated drunk, an Adderall addict. Anyway, I procured iboga root off the dark net. This is my second order, and it is fantastic. I highly recommend you get an iboga expert ex-junkie on the show. Your episodes that touched on it were funny, but the subject deserves more attention. Thanks, and keep it up, Dave. I love it. Crazy review, though.
Interesting. Well, usually ibogaine, people take ibogaine to kick heroin.
Right. I've taken it.
Taking it as like a drug to like just like enjoy.
Well, it's a crazy trip. I've taken it.
Don't you throw it up and like hallucinate and shit?
Yeah, you do all those things.
Yeah, no,
But the really strange thing is that was a review. It's so funny. Like how many other podcasts do you think have reviews where they're talking about shooting up their girlfriend with tiny veins and how
I know that was like puncturing her tiny veins. I was like, wow, that's pretty good writing. I was like, that's pretty good. That was created a visual. All right, so we need an ibogaine expert.
Yeah, a buddy of mine just took ibogaine just for depression.
Interesting.
And I took ibogaine and I did not. It was. I don't think I took the right dosage, but it was crazy.
Now they're microdosing MDMA for depression and also doing ketamine for depression. That's the new stuff.
Well, the newest and new. But but thank you, Amy, for coming on. It was a joy to have you.
Sure. Yeah, it was a blast.
And we say stay strong, Dopey Nation, and fucking toodles for Chris.
Stay strong, Dopey Nation.
Yes, and if you guys are fucked. Look somebody up and ask for help because everybody who's in recovery would love to help you out.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Amy.
All right. Bye.
Bye. It's awesome to have Amy on the show, but I forgot to thank my buddy Brer Brian for that Dopey song in the front. And if you guys want to hear more of Brer Brian's material, he used to play in a band with me back in the day. You can go to brer.bandcamp.com. He says his greatest thing, his homemade masterpiece, is Rose and Chubby by Rose and Chubby, 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 and it's at brer.bandcamp.com. And I love that Dopey song. So check out Brer's stuff. And if you guys have a hankering to do a Dopey song, send it to dopeypodcast@gmail.com. Send in a voicemail, send in an email, send in some Dopey art. I love your contributions. Thank you again to Amy Dresner and to Darren Prince for coming on the show. I'm going to close with another Brer Brian song that we recorded years ago. It's called Train Dispatcher. We recorded it with our buddy John, who I've known forever, and he sent in a bunch of amazing songs to Dopey, including Methadone, Titty Meat, and the classic Dopey jam, Acrimonious. Here's Train Dispatcher.
How are we starting this? 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
good.
Yeah, it's really good.
I think that's fucking